So there we are, Operation Mikado, cancelled on the 3rd of June for the reasons stated in the last video. So what next for B Squadron and myself? Well, nobody knew that there was about 11 days left in the Falklands War until it finished on the 14th of June. So it was deemed that we would probably take over from some of the lads in the other two squadrons. Remember, they lost 19 or 20 lives in the tragic helicopter incident. They'd been on the ground since the start, and it looked likely that we were going to go and take over from them. Remember, we didn't have any weapons or anything. But that aside, it was decided that we would go in 2 C-130s and B Squadron would actually jump into the fleet, half a squadron on each aircraft, fully kitted out now for parachuting, both all our weapons and equipment separately, and of course the guys who would follow them out into the sea and hopefully be picked up. The conditions were awful. I'll come on to that in a minute. So that's what it was. Got sorted out. The aircraft I was on had the head shed on it. The OC of the squadron and a few of the others. The other aircraft had mostly another couple of troops from the squadron, so more or less half and half, and of course air dispatchers who were on there, as well as a PJI, the parachute jump instructor, who'd be the guy who told you red on, green on, and kick you out the door. And that was that. So that's what was going to happen. The flight from Ascension Islands, probably about 4,300 miles, I think, somewhere in that region. We would refuel 3 times en route because of the distance, obviously. So we had the big tankers, and it was lovely to see them come out, and at least the nozzle from them actually hitting the right part of our plane to refuel it, and of course the other plane. But like all good plans, things change. Halfway, probably about halfway there, can't remember exactly, one of the aircraft, not ours, the other aircraft had a problem and had to return to Ascension Island, which left us half a squadron in 1 C-130 to carry on the mission to get down to the South Atlantic, where the fleet were 200 miles, as I said, off the coast of the Falklands, and prepare to jump in and be picked up. So there we were. We had all the boxes packed on rollers at the back of the aircraft. All you had to do, they were rigged up with parachutes, pretty much a rush job by the air dispatch guys, which proved costly in the end. So we were on the run-in, and of course the flight itself was quite bumpy. I can always remember that, and long. And be honest with you, I had my wetsuit on because I was jumping into the sea, cold, and of course ready to go. Personally, I just wanted to get out the aircraft, I'll be honest. Let me out and let me go and jump into the sea and see what happens from there. That's exactly what happened. So on the way in, on the run-in as they call it, to the fleet, yeah, there was snow. You could see the water, you couldn't see the water. You could see one of the ships, you couldn't see it. That was how it was. The back door, the ramp, shall I say, on the aircraft, the C-130 was down. And on the run-in, the lads were ready to go. First of all, push out the boxes on the rollers. They've got their own chutes. Out they went. However, the chutes snapped off. The boxes went flying into the sea. And the chutes took off in a different direction. Well, straight after that, you have either 6 or 8 sticks who would jump in, think it was 6 or 8, depending what's obviously what stick you were in. But when you saw the chutes sort of break off from the main and just watch them go flying into the ocean, it doesn't give you a good feeling. However, right after that, red on, green on, parachute jump instructor there in front of you, pushing you, just flicking you out, making sure there's no problems. So out you go, out the back door, or the ramp as they call it, off the ramp, straight out. And as soon as you get out and you just checked your chute is open, you throw your reserve chute, unclip it, throw it into the sea, never to be seen again. And that's what we did, and until everybody cleared the aircraft. However, of course, one of the troops, the free fall troop, the guys all had red noses on. It was so funny. You know, I didn't even know they'd taken them with them. Otherwise, I'd have had a red nose. But they put big red noses on to jump, and everybody exited the aircraft, all the boxes. I would say 90% of the kit and equipment that went out that door was never recovered. Some of it was, but not a lot. And that was that. You know, the air dispatcher's job on the aircraft, I'm afraid, it took a bit of a battering. Because once we got down there, bobbing along in the ocean, yeah, freezing cold. I remember peeing in my wetsuit, first of all, just to get it warm. And then waiting, because you can't do anything. You've got your life jacket on, and your life jacket is open, but you can't see behind you or anything. All you can do is wait. And then we all got onto the boat. I think it was HMS Andromeda. I can't quite remember. But yeah, that's what happened. And of course, before we jumped, we had a little issue ourselves in our stick where we had to unclip one guy and then clip him in front of another guy. But the PGI who stood in the doorway was absolutely dumbfounded. Nothing he could do, and we were on the run in to jump, and that's what happened. So everybody picked up. Then we found out the bad news that there was no kit and equipment for us, which is a real drama. However, the sense of humour comes through. We got some kit off the Navy, some spare white polo necks, blue trousers to walk around in, apart from what we had on. And I had similar to what I've got on here. That was on top, obviously. But we were now in the Navy's hands, who looked after us superbly on board for, I can't remember, a day or two. And that was before we got transferred then to the, I think it was an RFA, an auxiliary. And basically, once we got onto them, we knew then that we were going to relieve the other squadrons, what was left of the squadrons, because they'd been there from day one. So as we met up with them, yeah, we took the weapons off them. They didn't need them. They were going on board. We took the weapons off them. All their kit and equipment, we had to borrow. We took all that. And of course, I personally lost all my weapons and my personal belt kit, which is tailor-made for an individual. I haven't got one here to show you, but I knew where everything in my belt kit was. Everything. And that was my saver. But now, I don't have it. It's at the bottom of the ocean. All that time preparing it, putting stuff together, you wouldn't believe it. And now it's at the bottom of the ocean. So, the stuff we begged and borrowed was enough to see us through. And then the other parts of the squadron disappeared. And that left us to find out what the next part of the mission was for us. And it was unclear because of what had gone on, where the troops were lost. We lost 20 people, 20 guys from the squadron. It was unclear for us exactly what it was. But we said goodbye to the lads. They went one way, we went the other way. And once we got aboard the auxiliaries, we then had to sit around for days on end trying to figure out what they were going to do with us, where we were going to be deployed. And of course that took a few days. But essentially, lots of sense of humour, no communications back to the UK at all. So we were there. We knew where we were, but nobody else knew where we were. Families didn't know. They'd heard about the loss of life and everything, but that was blind to us. We didn't know that. We knew they would probably know about it, but there was nothing you can do about it. It's not as though you can pick up a phone and like you can these days. So back in Hereford, it was a bit of despair going on. But, you know, we soldiered on. The lads that had gone. We were now waiting. And by the time we finally got onto Stanley itself, onto the airfield, on the approach to the airfield and stuff, that very day was the day of the surrender. And the 14th of June, I didn't know whether to laugh, to cry. There we were, all the Argentinians in front of us, weapons on the floor, stockpiled. They weren't taking any weapons with them, surrendering going on. The surrender took place officially, and then we've all seen the flag that was hoisted back up over the Falkland Islands, Stanley, the British flag back up again. It's now back our territory. And when I think back on it, how things could have been so much different, and Rusty, you might be glad to believe, may not have been sat here talking to you and keeping you informed at this time of crisis here in the UK. So yes, I am here, and I will be telling you some more stories. I hope you like them. And of course, I always reflect back. Whenever I go to Hereford, I go to the cemetery. I beg your pardon, I go to St Martin's Church, where all the lads are buried, and look at the gravestones and just think, what a waste of good guys. But they're all together, and as I said, they'll be together forever. So all that suicide mission, everything, never got to fire a shot in anger. How disappointing is that? The highs and lows you'll never believe. But, as we always say, we were there, and who dares wins. What I'd like to say is that please subscribe to my YouTube channel and keep an eye on what Rusty's doing, what my work is, future events, and of course SAS related stories for you guys. So there we are. The next one I hope will be a John McAleese and Rusty reunion when we joined the SAS on selection together in '77. So look forward to seeing you, and who dares wins.